Whew. All right, finally being able to do this. I had a person who was looking around for something that they lost in the strangest of capacities. Um, so now that they've left, I can finally get this over with, or rather begin this, for lack of more wanting term. There was a murder of an officer in Alabama about, I think it was this morning, and the suspect was a 18-year-old who, when I saw the initial report, they said, "Oh, he vanished. We don't know where he is," and he came back and turned himself in. And now they're doing I think, the booking process. So the cop stopped him at this um, gas station, and that's when he got shot and died at the scene. That's where that RIP comes from. I actually had a little difficult time finding the article to go along with that story because there was another person who uh, had, I think it was an officer had killed someone, so it was alternating between that story and this one. What's up, music fan? How you doing? And now Bloomberg is announcing his entry into the race, and no one saw that coming. People just fill out presidential primary papers for fun. So when he entered, everyone was shocked, and no one could believe it. And he's vowing not to take campaign donations or a presidential salary, which, for those who don't know, the annual salary for a president is 400,000, meaning that if you serve one term, you're pretty much automatically a millionaire. Um, but he's a billionaire, so it doesn't really matter to him one way or the other. It's really funny to think about how you have a lot of poor people who, when they get just, let's say, $1,000, which is what Yang was proposing, they'll get really excited because of how uh, destitute their resources are. And then you have these people who are all the way at the top that can be around $1 million or half a million or 2 million and just rub it off like it's nothing. Income inequality in the U.S. is almost cartoonish in how accurate that statement is of how we have people who just, they're unfazed by large excesses of wealth because they have it themselves. So he's swearing off donations. I think, even if I don't have a high opinion of him, we'll probably stick to it. But again, it's not because he's some principled character who's trying to run a campaign for other people. It's all about showing how he's uh, has so much more resources than everybody else. I remember I watched a clip of, I think it was CNN, or it's one of those two networks, and they mentioned how he regretted not entering the 2016 primary. And I almost regret it too, because I'm pretty sure he would have stolen votes from Clinton. And so he could have helped in getting rid of the neoliberal warmonger queen that we ended up getting stuck with. And they're really doing a rally right now. Just right as I started, they do a rally with a perfect coincidence. Yeah, I was planning on doing this about maybe at 1, but I had an outdoor activity, so I just put it off until then, or I couldn't do it at that specific period. Because I used to do Sunday streams in the morning, but their attendance was kind of shoddy. So I said, let me see if the afternoon is a different thing. I remember I used to do the streams where there was no, I do not. I periodically check out their channel every once a week or so. It's kind of funny, when Trump first got in office, I think it was over the period of the maybe initial 6 or 7 months of his tenure. That was the main network I watched, because it was really entertaining to watch. Like, to see someone that they had on there, I think it was over 100 times, be in the White House, and just watching all little different panelists react to stuff. It was a nice little experiment, but I eventually tuned out because there was just too much bootlicking, and a lot of the commentators who are considered liberal, like Juan Williams. They're these like it's like, what are you doing there? They're there to get pretty much verbally beat up by getting triple teamed and not really sticking to their point or showing themselves to be kind of weak. It's kind of like if I made a network where I stuck, I don't know, three progressives at a table with a uh, Democrat, so someone who will blindly support the Democrats no matter what, and a Republican. And then every time that two of them speak, they get verbally smashed. Uh, One, because they're getting double teamed, and two, because they can't articulate their points. Or if they do, then there's a retort to it. Like, it's a never ending debate that has to end because it's on TV, but usually it ends in the favor of the progressives by the sheer number of them on there. So, hope that answers that question. Fox is a really, God, they really should go down in history as being the bootlick. Like I've seen, people like to say CNN has a liberal bias, but I already said it has an establishment bias. If you saw what they did to Sanders, you'll know there's no liberal bias. Where they took a picture of him and made his face look more red, and they added some. It was a whole people had entire segments about it. But the idea that they're actually on the side of progressives is very laughable, especially after Tapper did that little stupid, nonsensical fact check on single payer. We can't afford it. I don't know how these other developed countries can afford it, but I don't know how, we can't afford it. Yeah, I try to avoid all these stations at this point. They're insufferable because you have one side where it's like with Fox and OAN, which I call OAN baby Fox News, where they're just for Trump. And then if you watch CNN or Fox, or not Fox, CNN or MSNBC, all they do is whine about stupid stuff like tweets. Well, I said they shouldn't have gotten rid of him, and I actually did have some people on. I think it was Instagram try to confront me over that. Oh, what if he said something about your child? If they had, it was like, yeah, but that's not the point. We're talking about people in the dark running these websites being able to pick and choose who gets to speak and who doesn't. And whenever you allow them to pick off someone, you're opening the floodgate for them to eventually be able to do it to you. But people don't have that type of forward thinking or objective analysis. I just don't get why people can't accept the fact that these platforms want to be seen as public utilities, like YouTube, like Twitter, and then leave whoever they don't like alone. Don't watch their stuff. Like, no one is forcing you to watch Jones. I think he was he removed last year? He was on here for what, 7, 6. I'd never watched any full video on his channel ever. I just ignored it. I would hear about him, sometimes he gets reported by other people, but point is, I steered clear from that because I had no interest in it. Like I said, I tried to avoid engaging content on here that I don't enjoy. Some people, for some reason, try to do the opposite. Like I was talking about how on Secular Talks channel, you can right after he uploads a video, not even 5 minutes later, you see somebody talking about how stupid he is. I'm like, okay, you're sub to him to say that every video. Let's see. I'm enjoying a nice meal with curried goat and rice. Oh, Envoy, I didn't answer your question in last night's in the live show. Yeah, I do have a series of videos planned out for this week. I actually have one that I didn't put up from last week that I'll have to put up this week. I'm gonna tape over it and be like, hey, this was recorded such and such time ago, and in the time that's passed, this thing has happened as well. So, yeah, I got about 6 of them lined up. Got the Netanyahu one, got the Kissinger one. I have I have to go look, but there's a series of stuff there. Yeah, I'm gonna put those up during the week, and I'll try to start writing the McConnell documentary, which is going to be from 84, not 84, from what year was he born? 42 to 2007. He is a Christian, but I don't care. Wait, he is a what? A char a Charles. Okay, I'm confused. I don't know what. Oh, about Jones. Now I realize what was being stated. I finally have comprehended it. Yeah, C-SPAN is going to be very assisting of that endeavor, and I have a couple of articles I've already been able to pull up on it. Uh, it's so funny. What I thought was really interesting is that with the president ones, it's a lot easier to. Apparently not. Envoy, he hasn't showed up yet. He might appear. I don't know. Just give it some more time. But he, in reference to the McConnell thing, it's really interesting because he's been in the public phrase since the start of the archiving of the Senate. So when the Senate first started getting recorded by C-SPAN, he was that was around the time when he first started. So he's literally one of the first longest serving members of Congress that you can see the entire career of on their website. So I'll try to watch some of that and then form whatever my position is based off of that. I just know that when he started, he was an actual moderate Republican, and then he just went off the rails. And it sucks because the cutoff point I have for this is before the like all the Obama obstruction and stuff. So I'm gonna try to make it just first term, second term, third term, fourth term, majority leader like that. Because I know he barely got reelected in 2008. Almost got rid of him. Also for the what? Let's see, what president did you say you might cover yesterday? I have drafts of the scripts for documentaries on Polk, on Rutherford Hayes, and on Pierce. So I'll probably pick between those three, and then whatever comes out will come out. For the Polk one, I wanted to download this because one of his biographers actually spoke to C-SPAN. I think it was in 2003. It was right after he wrote his book, and he's like, I'd rather put that in there than speak on it myself because I don't want to regurgitate in crappier dialect what someone else said in a rather eloquent manner. So I'll see if I can get that video. I think someone posted on YouTube. I'm not sure. I'll go look for it again. It's really informative, and it sucks because there's so many little different tidbits of information that are occasionally left out about these people. Yeah, the Giuliani one though is going to have to. I'm going to put that on hold because I can't make up if I want it to be a two-parter or three parts where it ends right after 9/11 and then all the stuff between 2001 to 2016, and then from that point forward, like man, if only he hadn't have endorsed Trump, we would have none of this lawyer stuff would ever happen. I could add two parts, and we wouldn't have a new scandal breaking out revolving around him. It's a really aggravating. Well, not aggravating in the sense that I'm upset that it's happening, but because I wanted to have the complete story, and now he's adding more stuff after seemingly being done with running for office. So it's a pretty lame thing, but it is what it is. Yeah, I'll see if I can probably get some more notes on these people because I tried to do is look through a couple of books and then whatever I see in one, I don't see in another one, put it in there. And then if I do the modern, so all the presidents after Hoover will be probably two-parters because in the case of someone like Ford or Nixon, they have decades long careers that I can't possibly put in one video. So, did I answer your question? Are you dissatisfied? Are you gonna get upset. Um, yeah, he's like I said, I prioritize the ones that I know don't get discussed as often, so he'll be somewhere at the top of the list. I am more interested in doing some of the earlier ones than the crop that comes out of the 20th century. So we'll see what happens. We'll wait and see what occurs. Well, yeah, that's the main thing that he's remembered for. I've actually had people when I say Hoover, they well, think I'm talking about the FBI director. I had someone else who, when I mentioned Buchanan, they thought I was talking about, and this is while we were discussing presidents. They thought I was talking about Pat Buchanan. Any urge to perhaps talk about some of the wars, for example, Vietnam. Um, yeah, well, my thing is, I always have found more interest in speaking about particular individuals and their involvement in stuff. So if I did, it would probably be after a good chunk of these were done. Because if I'm going to cover some years and years long conflict, I try to lay it out in a chronological order. Really, with me in these different conflicts, I'm usually the thing I'm most interested in is how it started, how it ended, how many people died, and that's about it. Lots of interesting individuals to just American history alone. Yeah, that's what was pissing me off because I'm trying to do some members of Congress because I find a lot of them more interesting than the presidents of their era or just at different points throughout history. People like Calhoun, Clay, all the different individuals that have not won the presidency but have still made some impact. And because they weren't in that office, they get ignored. We have taken this one position and made it out to be the most consequential, significant, important thing ever. Okay, let me see what else is here. I'd say, out of Israel, the only person besides Netanyahu that caught my interest would probably Rabin, but that's because he was the last leader over there that there was actually a serious attempt to do some, peace with Palestinians with. So, uh, who in the UK besides Corbyn, and I guess a good chunk of the prime ministers. Yeah, it's a really. It's just it kind of gets a little daunting, but it is what it is. Also, I've been having some trouble with this phone of mine because I went to this place yesterday, and I swear it was like it's like a cartoon. It works perfectly fine on Friday, and then as I'm walking over to this place, probably maybe 20-minute walk, I noticed that a good chunk of my battery has gone down, and I'm sitting there like, what the hell? And then all of a sudden, I put it on the was it the power save mode, and it's like every 20 or 30 seconds, it'll just go down. Like it'll go from 100 to 90 in maybe 2 minutes. And I was sitting there scratching my head because I didn't understand. Like right now, it went from 95 to 93. How it could turn into a hunk of junk in literally a span of a day. It worked perfectly fine on Friday. Now it's just trash. So I was really annoyed by that. It really reaffirms how when you have these devices, they're so important. Uh, Even if someone doesn't want to admit it, oh, I just did whatever. I only call like 5 people. Yeah, but you use Uber, you use Google Maps. There's a lot of stuff that if you don't have this device to use, you're kind of screwed with. See if I put my drink. Oh. Oh. So I'm probably gonna end up having to either replace that or I don't know, go up to a store. And it's really similar to this other device problem I had where you go on YouTube, you look up steps that people claim will help you. You know, you turn this off, turn that off, and then nothing works, man. Oh, turn off these apps in the background. Turn them off. Oh, turn off the brightness. Turned it off. Oh, click this. Clicked it. I mean, I must have followed like 5 or 6 different power saving steps, and it's the same result. Now it's a 91, and you just saw me. I didn't even use it. God damn it. Now it's 89. I guarantee if I just sat here and held this in my hand for another 10 minutes, it would probably be at like 20 or 30%. 88. And it's on power save mode. So this is supposed to be the mode that makes the battery last longer than it would if it were, in its regular capacity. And it just drains and drains and drains. And people wonder why I get so it's just another one of those little annoyances. Like when we did the it can only get worse stream. The purpose of that was to say that it seems like the only time anything happens new with technology or with um, employment or some other thing that you want to work efficiently, it always sucks. Oh, my computer just had something new happen to it. Oh, it's slowing down and it needs to have this part replaced that cost whatever. Oh, my phone is now, the battery is acting differently. Oh, it's depleting quicker. Oh, wow. Oh, I just put up a new video. Somebody else unsubbed again. Oh, okay, wow. I mean, like, just you can't win. That's all I can say. And Envoy, you even saw the comment that Ruben posted about um, the argument or the encounter that led to the why YouTube boys will never control me, where I wouldn't argue or I wouldn't say anything back to the stuff this person was writing until they left. So if I had said something back, they would have said I was stupid for defending, against the points they were making. Then they would have left anyway. So I said, just damned if you do, damned if you don't. I mean, it is a continuous little, tit for tat. Now it's 87. This thing is such a. Oh man, Envoy disappeared. He must have stuffed himself too much and fallen asleep. Hey, Envoy, remember that joke with you having the ex-wife? She she gave you some poisonous meal. It's like, oh, this food is so good. And then you see like little X's crossed over his eyes. That was all part of her devious plot to make sure that she got her revenge. I would like to do a because I mentioned during the Taft documentary that 2 states were admitted, which I forgot after making it during his tenure. I would like to do a like history of U.S. statehood where it catalogs which states were added under who and what were the circumstances. Because I know that with I believe it was Arizona, there was something where he didn't like one of the laws of the territory, and they had to change it for him to sign a its statehood into law. So there was a little story behind it getting in there, or there being contention. Uh, in reference to it being admitted. I also had mentioned to this person that because they asked me, why, what is the point of the documentaries? I said, well, it's twofold. I've had a lot of people who say they don't want to read an entire 600, 500, 400-page book to learn about someone, which I get. So if they can't watch that, then there's no hope for them, like at a period, because you're not reading anything. You can just sit there and listen to it. And if you still object to it at that point, my hands are tied. And secondly, because I am kind of curious about how differently I would cover something over another. Like I was watching, there was a C-SPAN host on, not host, but a Democratic strategist that was on C-SPAN earlier today. And he was saying, Trump is not like any other president. I said, I really hate that belief, because I can name multiple positions of his that are either that of Obama or that of Bush or that of both of them. So if I were to, let's say, do a documentary on him, which, I would hold off on making that for as long as I could, I would probably say, hey, these things are, people would claim that he was so different from these other people. But here are the positions of his that are identical to his immediate predecessors. And that's something I don't think would be mentioned in like somewhere like Nightline, for example. If they covered him, they wouldn't say, decisively state this line of reference of him, that he's this transformative figure. And I think actually, if there's any stylistic change that Trump has made, it's kind of a thing of now anyone wants to run for president. That's about it. But as far as like governing and being in office, the only place where I've seen actual huge differences in one way or the other is the courts, because of the 100 judicial nominees that got through, that the Democrats fast tracked so they could go home and campaign last year, and the two Supreme Court justices. But like that's something that is more a direct result of Democrats being incompetent and lazy and just really dumb, than of him being some effective uh, policymaker. It's like, man, come on. If Britain becomes a self-governing country, Trump said he'll trade with us. Um, I thought already was self-governing. I guess not. Also, Sam, someone sent me a picture of your the outside of your house. I didn't know you had a Theresa May bumper sticker on your car. It looks nice. I'm just a little surprised you would support a politician like that, and then also like this kind of stuff. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So that was your favorite prime minister. Let me see what I put up yesterday. Oh, Envoy, did you like the Rising's clown guest, where it was that clip of the Rising where every time that strategist and that woman spoke, I kept playing the honk noise while they were talking. And at first, I was gonna make it to where it was only at the start of when they spoke to at the end of it, but I like the idea of, as they're talking, you're I should have. I actually I forgot to do this, or I could have done this. I could have taken my MS Paint and drawn like a little circle for a clown nose and put it on their faces, like while they were speaking. But I didn't feel like doing that. Might as well make fun of the clowns when you can. Yeah, they were saying stuff that didn't even make sense. Uh, Far left Democratic positions, like background checks, are considered the moderate proposal. They're supported by again, like over 90% of the people. You don't get any more moderate than that in terms of adding any kind of restriction. And when O'Rourke came out with his mandatory buyback thing, which was considered, all the way to the left, that was, no one supported that. He got made fun of by members of his own party, by people that are on his supposed same ideological spectrum. So it's like, what are you talking about? But no one tried to say that specifically to her. Um, it's kind of like when Trump was mentioning how in his tweet today that the do nothing Democrats haven't passed anything. And I do agree that they're wasting their time with this impeachment trash, but they did pass the those same background checks I was talking about. I think back in February, and McConnell won't bring it up for a vote. So, you're and McConnell brags about the Senate being a legislative graveyard for the Democrats because they passed something in the House and he won't even have a vote on it. The only thing all year he's had a vote on that they proposed was the Green New Deal, which was stupid to even have a vote because you already knew it was going to be voted down. He's worried that the background checks actually might pass because when they were proposed in 2013 by, I believe it was Toomey and who's the other one, Murphy, it just barely didn't pass. It was like 50 something and it needed 60 votes. So I think it's really amusing. It's the same thing with the Violence Against Women Act, which I actually considered doing a video about that. Basically, there's this provision in that law where if a man is convicted, not accused, convicted of being, violent towards some chick, he can't get a weapon. They call it the boyfriend loophole. And instead of the Republicans just admitting we don't want any kind of restriction on firearms, we don't care if somebody does that to a person they've been convicted of attacking, these cowardly little pricks got the female senator from Iowa, who is a survivor of getting raped and whatnot, and the female senator from Tennessee to be like, we personally oppose these restrictions on our Second Amendment. Like, man, because they realize it's bad optics to have some old dude in a suit say, "Oh, we don't think it's a big deal that this is occurring. We don't need to pass this law." And there's actually a clip of Schumer talking about how the Republicans are, doing something that doesn't. And it sucks because I can't stand Schumer. I want him primaried. I want him out of there. But what he said was true. Like how horrible do you have to be to where you have me agreeing with Schumer? Okay, Sam says, nah, the EU got us by the balls, man. Oh, that's what was meant. See, I got confused because over here we don't we're not we get told we're not a self-governing place and it's the welfare. And when people speak like that, it a lot of times it's so nuanced that you don't even know what they're talking about or what specific thing are they referring to. So I get now that he was talking about the EU. But that's why I said I thought you guys were self-governing. Yeah, this Brexit stuff has been just God. Brexit is like going to be your guys' Afghanistan, where it just never ends. It's not as violent; people don't die from it, but it never finishes. Like you're just always every year after year. Are we finally going to get Brexit? Are we finally going to get Brexit deal? Man, how long has the conflict in Afghanistan been going on for? Again, since 2001, since I was 3. That's why they said you have people who weren't born yet who can now enlist in that conflict. And you have people who were small children at the time, like yours truly, who can go fight in that banana war at this point. I say anytime you have some conflict where it goes on long enough for people who were small children or not born yet to be able to that's a waste of time. That's not going to end in some honorable, peaceful way. And remember, they said we were over there because we were training we trained not the Taliban. We were training the Afghanistan civilians to protect themselves. And we've been training them for so long that like I don't even know when. But that's why I said that what's so frustrating about being part of the non-war group is that you end up having to kind of like gamble with a lot of these politicians who have a chance of being in that office, and they can't give you any firm commitments to anything. Case in point, during the fourth Democratic debate, you had all the different people up there, candidates, except for Gabbard talking about Trump was so stupid for pulling out of Syria. He abandoned the Kurds. They're all going to get slaughtered here. But none of them can tell you when specifically would you get out. Like with me, I would say, look, this is not the way I would have done it. I'm glad we're leaving. I'm fine with it. That would have been my answer. But because they want to have, play, protect, but also, I believe in getting out of there eventually. They have to answer in these like contradictory ways. And I'm telling you, it's not a coincidence. They never tell you specifically when they would get out. I think it was, I think Gabbard said during the first debate that if she got elected, she would try to get out of Afghanistan in her first term. None of these other people are putting any and I had this guy in the Envoy. I don't know if you've heard me mention the guy that was my Uber driver that pissed me off because he kept saying stupid stuff. But one of his comments was, everyone's anti-war until they get in there. I said that I didn't specifically say this to him, but I mean, if we go off of that logic, then why vote for anybody? Like we expect when they get in office, it's not as easy as it seems. But the point is the people who are in there aren't doing anything. And Trump, I said before, I can get clips of him from his campaign talking about bombing the you-know-what out of, I believe it was ISIS, and also at one point saying it was a mistake to go in there. So there's comments on his part that lean both ways so that when he gets in office, you can at least figure it kind of makes sense for certain things to lean both ways. If you have someone who runs before running for president as an anti-war person and they say, I don't believe in being in this conflict, and they vote to get out of these conflicts when they're in Congress, what the hell else am I supposed to hold them to? I mean, if their whole record before they got in office was get out of these conflicts, both in their votes in Congress and in their rhetoric, I don't like. That's why I said I hate a lot of my contemporaries and discussing this stuff with them because they don't think about things rationally. They just like, oh, well, I feel as if when people get in the White House, they automatically have such a difficult time or rescind their previous position. Like it doesn't work like that. You have when someone has an actual principled stand on issues and you give them a little bit more power, they don't immediately abandon it. So I said people are like with this stuff, they just act like douchebags, man. They suspend reality. They don't think when they say things, and it's just verbal diarrhea. That's why a lot of the opinions that are dispersed online and in person, I don't really feel the need to respond to because I find them so ridiculous. Let's see. I wish Sheriff Clark should have. Wait, who? Are you talking about the one from Milwaukee? Okay, Envoy says they always say they're leaving these banana wars, but won't give us a year, let alone a month or day. I still have that one clip of Trump talking about legal immigrants. He's like, day one, my first hour, they're going. And I remember I was in this server where one of the rules was don't try to like flirt with any of the chicks in there. And literally right after I joined, this broad came into VC and she said, hey guys, want me to moan for you? By the way, if you saw what she looked like, her moaning wouldn't do anything for you. But when I was defending like my position of why she was a problem, I was like, day one, my first hour in that server, she asked me if she wanted to moan. Like in reference to that. Because it literally was. I think it actually was the first hour I was in that server. Like the rule said, don't flirt with any of the chicks. And then some broad comes in there talking about, you guys want me to moan for you? Let's see how many troops' lives have been lost all these days. Man, I don't even. It's an insurmountable number. I wish I could say it right now, but I don't have it on hand. it's easily somewhere in I'm pretty sure. I know specifically that the number of troops that have died in these conflicts since 9/11 have actually it's a larger number than 9/11 of in terms of the number of people who have died, the casualties. Oh, of course, in the thousands. I'm just saying I don't know the specific number. I mean, hey, that's why only 1% of all Americans are in the military. It really is a waste of time, and we treat people who are in there like garbage. Don't let anybody tell you that the veterans are being taken care of by any of these parties because, like I said, they make up 27% of the homeless. Like only in a backwards, broken country can the people who decide to voluntarily give their lives for all these ungrateful pricks, end up being a quarter of the homeless. Imagine if you got drafted. I'm not getting drafted. I wish they would send me a letter to go serve. I would. My next stream would be in Tijuana or some other region. It would not. They would have to like come get me kicking and screaming or something. I would be it would be a very difficult thing to actually get me to voluntarily sign up for any military stuff. I'm done. Like I said, I'm not defending people who don't defend me and treat me like trash. I'm gonna defend the U.S. so some broad can pop out a child that she can't take care of. What an honor! I'm gonna take care of the U.S. so we can go and try to protect the U.S. by helping them invade some random country that hasn't done anything to us. And I told you that the funniest thing about last year was that two of the top American officials on international issues, Trump and Bolton, the national security advisor, were both draft dodgers. And I don't dispute them for being that, but I'm going to follow what they did as opposed to what people are currently doing by serving because it's just isn't worth it. I would just start acting crazy like I lost all of my facilities. It's funny you said that's exactly what Ali said when he didn't go to Vietnam. Yeah, he said it's not the Viet Cong who are calling me the N-word. It's so true. Well, that's why I said Americans are antagonistic toward each other. Like there was a guy who wrote I think it was a post on Twitter, and it got massively downvoted, or it not downvoted, but there was a woman I knew who was like really disgusted by this, and he said something along the lines of, "I only care about Americans. All the rest of the earth can burn or some kind of trash." And I thought to myself, because he was a conservative, this will be the same person who, if we say we want higher wages, he tells us to get over it and work harder. As productivity levels of workers have increased, while wages have remained stagnant. But like this is the same prick who wants you to believe that he cares so much about his fellow American, and then they're all suffering, and he tells them to suck it up and get over it. And I said before that it's so aggravating with these people because no one is telling you go help out every single homeless person, but when you verbally oppose people who work getting raises in the richest country on the face of the planet, which spends hundreds of billions of dollars every year for 7 never-ending wars, but apparently you believe because of your ideology they can't afford to give people an extra $2 a month a day. Yeah, I think that's nonsensical. Not pawns in the game. Stupidity. It's a bunch of contradictions and. I mean, I'll put it like this: that same person that got mad at me for swearing about, I think it was 3 weeks ago, same one that is okay with a broad destroying someone's life, by having some child she couldn't afford. So, my verbal comments have had a worse, and then they'll try to defend it. Go, oh, those two things don't correlate. Yes, they do, because you don't threaten someone over what they said, but then be okay with a broad who destroyed a child's life by having a child she couldn't afford. You just don't. So they do relate to just people when they say that they don't want to admit their own contradiction. Ask me why I don't talk to that person. I say, I don't support this lifestyle. mean, if they want to get on, like let's say welfare, for example, they can, but that doesn't mean I have to speak to them or be friendly to them or shake their hand or ask them if they want to go hang out. I don't like that person. I don't support them. I don't like what they're doing. They can go to hell. Fire and brimstone. They can hang out with that. I said the same thing about the let's see. No, I'm Envoy. If you watch some of the comments that have been made toward me, I've had it. And I'm not, again, one of these people that likes to go back and forth over stuff that's already been confirmed. Two people not liking each other. So I say just let's let it live. Let me leave that person alone. They leave me alone. It'll all be good. I think it's a pretty fair comment to have one person that screwed with someone else just be left to their own devices. So I said I just say the quiet part out loud, where people they always try to make it seem like these comments are so horrible and evil. Like if I call some chick, you know, I say they can go jump, go get lost, but that's pretty much what they do when they stop speaking to you. It's that whole thing of I don't care what happens to you, whatever, go away, disappear. Um, and I gave the example if I had this person come over my house for some gift inquiring about my birthday months after. I think it was a month after it happened when they could have called me, and how they were so offended by this. And I said, this is the same stuff I'm talking about. They could have called me, they could have sent me a message on social media if they wanted to speak to me. They didn't. So that is the same as basically silently, without saying any words, confirming you want nothing to do with me. So I said the quiet part out loud. I said, get lost. Pull a Jimmy Hoffa or Natalie Holloway or some other person. Who's that congressman that disappeared? I forgot his name. I think it was in a plane crash or something. I'm done. God, people. I told you, rhetoric is they put too much emphasis on it. That's why you have you have all these news stories dedicated to Trump's tweets. It's like I already listed some statistics earlier, but it's those are the kind of things I'm talking about, where comments that are made on my part matter more than things that people actually do. It's like, oh my God, he swore at us. Yeah, after you ransacked his quarters, what do you expect? And that's the point I made to them. If I did this to anybody else, not only would I get cursed out, I probably would have been physically assaulted. Do that to any person you can think of that is able-bodied and see what happens. But because I'm so non-confrontation prone, they were able to get away with it. Well, they got away with it on that particular day. There's still the consequences of me not speaking to those people still apply. Like I said, all these things correlate. It's people just trying to see what they can get away with. So yeah, I'll put out stuff obviously this week, and I'll try to write some more notes out. I do like the idea of doing modern figures because they have clips I can use, so it's not just me reading or reciting something they said. Like how for the TAF, when I started off with that speech he gave about the sometimes good things that come out of war. So I'll see what else I can do in terms of editing and presentation. All right, so with that being said, I think we're pretty much done here. Envoy, any further comments, statements, positions, viewpoints, beliefs? I'm all popped. I'm all what? All pooped out. But you enjoyed the meal, but not the stream. What a cruel thing to say. Like the meal was all right, the entertainment wasn't. Well, all right. I'll see you. I'll maybe you'll show up for the one tomorrow. I don't know, but thanks for showing up. I appreciate it.